All right, Sarah, what is up?
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
Doing
How are
pretty
you?
good. I'm doing good.
Good.
I'm just chilling. So
Good.
yeah, I'm grateful for you being willing to do this. For those of you that are watching this on social or whatever, maybe listening in, thank you. We just thought that what we would do is put out some content. We're getting into the the holidays, and we know that there's like this precarious thing happening right now with schools being open or being closed, and young people experiencing the pain that comes with that, uh, and the depression and anxiety, uh, and other things that are transpiring as a consequence. And so we just wanted to put some content out there that might help a parent, might help a teacher, might help a pastor, a coach, or whatever think about how they can engage Gen Z through this difficult time. So, Sarah, just to clarify, you're a Gen Zer, right? You
Yes.
are in college right
Yeah.
now, junior
Yeah.
year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Enjoying it, loving it,
Yeah,
even though it's been a strange year.
definitely. Yeah.
I bet. So, just to dive in, tell us a little bit about you before we do that. Actually,
Um, so I'm currently a junior at Grand Canyon University. I'm majoring in
sweet,
sociology with a minor in worship arts. I hope to someday become a social worker and possibly a youth worship pastor. Um, I'm from Las Vegas. Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much it.
nice, and you're just cool people. All
Thanks.
right, so let's dive in. Um, Obviously, you've been at school. I know that you still have interaction with a lot of young people that are in high school ministry, different things like that. So, like, what have you seen over the past year? Because 2020 has been crazy, right? So, over the past year of 2020, what have you been seeing concerning mental health amongst Gen Z young people?
Um, so I definitely think that Gen Z does find value in mental health and like even that we're all that good at actually dealing with it.
Mm,
Um, and I think a lot of that is like reflected through social media. Like most of Gen Z is on social media and we are being influenced by the things that we see. And it's like so easy to fall into a trap of darkness and negativity. So I think like with this whole pandemic, there's been a lot of good things that have come out of it in terms of like people are coming together in different ways and they're becoming creative in different ways of being able to meet with their friends, meet with their communities. But I definitely think it's just something that obviously nobody was prepared for.
mm,
And so I think like a lot of Gen Z is like figuring out what they want to do with their future, or even like a young adult trying to figure out what's my career going to look like, what's my life going to look like in the next 6 months, because there's so much uncertainty and so much craziness happening, that I think it's like nobody really knows how to deal with the situation. And we're just like all trying to navigate that
yeah.
together. And it's just, there's no rule book, there's no guide.
Mm,
Um, so it's like been pretty difficult, I think, for most people.
hmm. And what's been like the temperature of friends around you? Like, what are like the common things that you're hearing young people say around you?
I think with like transitioning on going back to school, um, we're just like like people are just trying to pass, like they're just trying to like pass their classes, get by each day. um I know like going to GCU and being involved in student leadership, we're doing as much as we can to get students involved, even though there's so much craziness happening and we have to wear masks, we have to socially distance. But I think like people are just trying to make ends meet, however, whatever that looks like. And like in terms of school, like kids don't get to go back to school, they have to do it online. Like um, I know like from a perspective of like hearing what parents are saying about their kids not being able to go back to school, like I start at church while they do school if their parents aren't home during the day.
Mm,
And it's just like so crazy that these kids have to, like 5-year-olds have to know how to send an email or use three
mm,
different platforms for a classroom. Like, there's so many different things. And like young kids are overwhelmed, young adults are overwhelmed in college, like they don't get to go to class and interact with their teacher, they don't get to interact with their students if they don't understand something and ask questions, you know. So I think people are just trying to make ends meet. So
Hmm. So, um, what are some questions that you think adults, so parents, pastors, teachers, coaches, whoever, like if you're like somebody who has some sort of influence in a young person's life, uh, what questions should you be asking the young people around you to like check in on them?
well, I think it's really easy for us to just be like, "Hey, how are you doing?" You know, and everybody's like, "Oh, good, you know, I'm fine, this and that." But I think like one really intentional question to ask somebody that you care about or like make somebody feel that they're like seen and valued is, "How is your heart? What's going on in your life? Is there anything that I can either be praying for you? Is there anything that I can do for you? Is there anything that you need? How are you taking care of yourself?" Um, you know, things like that. I think it's so easy to just like get caught up in like, oh, like you see all the good things and oh, I'm going to tell you all the great things because you don't want to hear the bad things, you know. So I think just like being more intentional on leading the conversation in the direction of what's going on in your head, you know, how is everything really going or how are you navigating this season of your life, you know.
Hmm. Do you think it would be beneficial if those people, like those leaders, were open to sharing with the young people as well what's going on in their lives?
Yeah, I think when somebody's like open, like being vulnerable with somebody, like they're being open to somebody, it definitely allows for um, a conversation of openness, and it also allows for trust. Like, oh, this person trusts me. Oh, they really want to share what's going on. Really are interested in how I'm doing, how my life is going.
Hmm, that's good. So I know that also you kind of have interactions with people that are in high school. Like I know you have some friends that are in high school. Um, and so like, one of the things we're seeing right now is massive trends with regards to depression and anxiety. And I think everybody's kind of honed in on high school students and below when it comes to that.
Hmm.
Um, like, is there anything you've been seeing with those people that you interact with? Is there anything that, yeah, is there any questions that you've been asking them that may be helpful for adults that have um, maybe children or people that they interact with in that same age range?
Um, I think that I'm seeing like if they don't have like if they're just going to school and they don't have like a job or anything,
Hmm.
it's definitely easier for them to be kind of like depressed and upset and sad and about the whole situation of not going back to school. Um, I think just like again asking them what they need. You know, they don't even know what's going on, and
Mm,
um, just like offering a helping hand is so beneficial because they're like it's kind of like we're all chickens running around with our head cut off because nobody knows what we're doing, and especially kids. You know, they're um, in middle school and elementary school and high school. You know, um, it's a completely different environment and something they're not used to. And interaction, human interaction, is so important in development in their age group. You know, and so I think just asking like, hey, what do you need today? What can I do to make your day better? What is it that you're struggling with? How are your classes going? How can I help you? Is there anything that you need outside of school? Like just being intentional in whatever the situation is.
hmm. You mentioned something earlier that I thought was really cool, and I think it alludes to maybe why this may be such a disconnect. Like for adults, we're already kind of locked into our future, if you will. Like we already have a sense of where we're going to be working because we're already working there. Or perhaps, we're unfortunate enough to lose a job, myself, and then you got to go find another one. But there's this like clear sense of what you have to do. But when you're in high school or when you're in college and you haven't had that job yet and you're still finishing up your degree, or maybe you're in high school and you haven't even like gone on to college yet to get a degree, and there's all this uncertainty around your future, right? It's going to create a lot of anxiety. And then on the low side of that, it's going to create depression as well, right? Would you say that's a fair summation?
Yeah. definitely.
Hmm.
I think like, young adults are trying to find out what they want to do for the rest of their life. They're getting a degree and or even not getting a degree and just finding a job that they're really interested in. But like with the situation of our world, it's like, well, I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. I don't know if I'm going to have this job next month, next year. What does my life look like in 5 years? Like young adults are in the transition of planning how they're going to provide for their future families, how they're going to build a future. And then high schoolers are deciding, well, am I going to go to college? Do I want to leave my home when things are going bad? Or maybe they're in a situation where they're like, I need to leave my home. Like my family life isn't so good, And so um, I think that it's like some colleges aren't going back to school. And so there's like less opportunity for students to go outside of their state, go outside of their home and go to school. And so there's just so much to consider and so much to lose for some students and for some people, that it's just like, how are we working to fix this issue as best as we can, and like what can we do to make sure that we're reaching as many students and as many young adults as we can to help them navigate this season of life.
Hmm. That's good. So Thanksgiving this week, opportunities for family to get back together, right? And I think a really cool opportunity as well for um, leaders, parents, all those different types of people to kind of check in on the young people around them. Like, are there any suggestions that you would have for how they could go about doing that? I mean, I know you mentioned questions, but like for example, when someone checks in on you, what are things you like them to do? And maybe that will help spark some ideas in their mind.
I think one of the most important things that people ask me is like, how are you taking care of yourself?
Mm,
And I think like in my specific situation, I'm one to put others ahead of myself, or just not really prioritize me. And I think that's like so easy when you're involved in a community, or like even if you're a student at home by yourself, you can often just like feel like you're overlooked and people aren't really paying attention to you. So I think
mhm.
just like
That's
being
good.
intentional and like asking somebody, what are you doing to take care of yourself? Or um, how can I help you get to where you need to be in a better mindset, to have better habits? Um, is there something that you would like I can meet with you every week? One thing that I do with one of my friends is she calls me every Saturday and we talk about our week, and she just asks me, how can I be praying for you? um, what is it that you need? What are your highs and lows? That's such a big thing, I think, even in younger students, is like highs and lows. Just kind of like debriefing of like, okay, this is good, this is bad, let's talk about it. It sparks a conversation. And I
Mm,
think a lot of the times people just keep their emotions and their words bottled in. They just need that spark in the conversation to just let it all out and debrief.
that's good. I think too, you said something pretty profound. You said a lot of times students or high school kids or even just young people in general in that space, the family space, just get overlooked, right? We just assume that they're okay because they're
Hmm.
kids and we think, oh, they don't have the same responsibilities on their shoulders, like their lives are all good. They look like they're enjoying themselves and internally they might be falling apart, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
Hmm. So,
definitely.
and
I
I'm
think
thinking
like
too,
also
go ahead.
younger generations are. Oh, I just think like also like younger students are so involved in social media that like,
Mm,
yes, they're going to school, and yes, they're maybe trying to get good grades, maybe they're struggling in school, but they're also focused on their image, how they're looking to other people. And that's like so important to them in this age. And so that can also have a really big effect on their mental health.
mm,
And we don't talk about that. So this thing the other day, it was all the years of education, but no one ever taught us how to love ourselves. And I
mm,
think that's so crazy that we just like go through school and we get educated on these things that they think that we need, but like nobody ever really tells us or teaches us how to love ourselves,
mm,
how to be confident in who we, and how to, just as a person. And I think just like being intentional and talking to a young student of, you know, how are you doing with your self-image? How can I help you? How can I encourage you? So,
That's good. I think too, as I'm hearing you talk, um, one of the helpful things maybe, and you can speak into this, is to kind of, during Thanksgiving, I know it's difficult to like take someone somewhere now, considering depending on where you're at in the country, you might be completely closed down, partially closed down, you might be open, right? But just the idea of taking a young person to their favorite place to get ice cream or to get coffee or whatever it is, and then just saying like, "Hey, how are you doing? What's going on in your life?" And using the break, Thanksgiving, like it's like this weird interruption in our lives, right? Because usually we're just on task and everything's, we're just doing what we're doing, and then Thanksgiving provides us this unusual break in the middle of everything that's going on to kind of focus on our family. And I think we should take that opportunity and maybe do something outside of the norm of what we usually do to even disrupt that, and then have those kinds of conversations where we're asking the questions that you're asking, right?
mhm, yeah, definitely.
Hmm, it's good. Okay. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for just being willing to share a little bit and speak into what you're seeing, and speak into what adults, uh, parents, coaches, pastors, teachers should be thinking about as we transition into Thanksgiving. So, everybody that listened in, thanks for listening. I hope it was helpful for you. And we'll be dropping a couple more of these with a couple of different people. We'll be talking to you guys soon. Peace.